to another episode of A Breath Fresh Marketing. I'm your host, Melissa Psihudakis, and today we are here with Joe Dombrowski, known by the moniker Mr. D. He is a passionately funny school teacher, comedian, and podcaster. He first rose to fame from a viral video of a fake spelling test as an April Fool's Day prank on his students, which led to multiple appearances on the show Ellen. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's funny. It's not often that when you run your own podcast, you're so focused on that. So it's great to be a guest on somebody else's. So I appreciate it.
Yes, I love that. Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so just like you said, I'm a full-time comedian. Next year, I'll actually be part-time teaching. I was full-time up until then, part-time kindergarten. I found out I have a really interesting schedule next year. I'm 2 days kindergarten, 1 half-day pre-K with 1 hour virtual kindergarten PE. So with that, I am going to go certifiably insane, most likely next school year. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, my passion is actually humor. Making people love life, making people have fun. And I love doing that in schools, and I love doing that on stage.
That's awesome. So where are you from originally?
I'm actually originally from Detroit. So I have a little bit of a hard edge on me, for sure. So I lived my whole life in the Detroit area, Metro Detroit area. Did my master's and undergrad in Detroit for education and educational leadership. Taught there for about 7 years, and then I taught in Chicago for a year, and then my partner got a really awesome job over here in Seattle, so I currently live in Seattle, but I'm very much not from here because Detroit shines through every single day as I walk these Seattle streets. It's pretty funny, but beautiful area. I'm really enjoying my life here.
Nice. I've been to Detroit a couple of times, and it was very cold.
Yeah, and you survived, so congratulations.
Yeah, I made it. So when did you start going by Mr. D?
Always. In the class, so a little bit about me too is I, teaching is very difficult, especially on the very low salary that we're offered. And when you're in your first few years, it's extremely low because you're at the bottom of the pay scale. So I actually started comedy a year before I was actually on my own in teaching with my own classroom. And I was just having fun, but I quickly realized that if you got a little bit of talent behind you, you can make some fun play money with that. So I was always doing comedy on top of teaching, just kind of to put a little bit of gas in my car to get to work, buy lunch when the staff went out with them, just to sort of allow me to have a little bit more flexibility with the small income that I was making. So with that, in the classroom, I always went by Mr. D because my full last name is Dombrowski. It's just a little easier on the tongue for the kids to say Mr. D. So I always went by Mr. D. And then back home in Detroit, I'm actually known as Joey, not Joe. So I was Joey D on stage. Joey D. They didn't say Joey D. And then when I started to transition and bring some of my stories from the classroom on stage, it was Mr. D, Mr. D, Mr. D, Mr. D. And it was the same thing as in the classroom. Sure. So then when I really pivoted and started doing almost exclusively things that happened in my teaching life, it was Mr. D from then on out. And I kind of made this little local name for myself in comedy where, Joey D was performing, Mr. D is on stage, and it's stuck and it's been very successful. So it's kind of like one of those things that just happened and you roll with it.
Nice. So when did you first know you wanted to be a school teacher?
God. So I actually knew that I wanted to be a comedian first. I was a stand-up comedian for my 3rd grade talent show when I was in 3rd grade. And entertainment has just always been in my blood. All my friends' parents growing up, or my cousins and my aunts and uncles were always like, oh, he's going to be on TV. He's going to be performing. That's this kid. That's what he's going to do. So teaching actually I was struck by that a little bit later in life. And when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and our national philanthropy, where it's a chain of summer camps called the Serious Fun Camps, or the Serious Fun Network. And there's summer camps for children who are living with serious or terminal illnesses. And I had the opportunity to volunteer at one of those camps while I was still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. And one of the things that they pride themselves at camp is there's no limits on the kids. So we had a student who was fully wheelchair bound, and we were going to the high ropes course, and he was very apprehensive to do it. But the whole high ropes course was designed where we could actually send him up into the trees in his wheelchair, and he was so scared. And I kind of used humor, my normal humor self, to ease him into it. Oh, you don't have to do it. That's fine. We're just going to go have fun without you. No big deal. Just kind of teasing and playing. He's like, I can do it. I can do it. And to watch his face as we hoisted him up in those trees have just uninhibited joy and fearlessness and courage as we did that. It was that moment where I was like, I want to work with kids and I want to do this. Yeah. So that really changed me. And then mixed with the fact that we had our summers off, so I knew that I could tackle both my dreams at the same time, was a match made in heaven. It was kind of game over from there.
That's awesome. It's funny. I actually started my career as a teacher.
Yeah. Very cool. What'd you teach?
English, high school. Nightmare.
Oh, you're smarter than me. I teach the alphabet. You do something with that.
No, you know what it was? It's like really tough because I was a new graduate. I was 21 years old, especially when you're starting just the student teaching and getting, your first job. And I was teaching, 17-year-olds that were turning 18, and I was 21, and I was so close to their age. Mm-hmm. Really, really tough.
Yeah.
You don't get the respect from kids when, and I looked really young. So I was easily kind of fitting in with the mix of my high school students. And it was really tough for me. Like I had a really hard time struggling with that. And I knew that probably wasn't going to be my lifelong dream when I couldn't, make that work for me. And I was like, I should have, went and got certified for the younger kids. Like I wanted to do that. I felt like, if I had kindergarten, like elementary, then that's great because there's no discrepancy there,
Right. Yeah.
So, and then I ended up going to marketing. So that was it. Yeah. But
that's actually really cool that you say that, because I think that there's a weird stigma in teaching and education that you have to do this till you die. And you have to always be in the classroom. And you just have, no matter how hard it is, you just keep going. And I actually stepped out of the classroom for a year and a half because I was in just a very toxic environment. It was wearing on both me as a professional and my personal life. And it was very difficult. I was unsupported, and I had a really rough couple of years, and I left and came back a better teacher. And I was getting some criticism for leaving the classroom. And I think that narrative needs to change, because we need the best teachers in the classroom. And if it's not for you, that is such an admirable thing for people to recognize about themselves, because we need people in the classroom who can serve the kids to the best and give all of yourself for whatever amount of time that is. And if that's not you, that is great that you can recognize that and find something else that fills your bucket, because you as an adult or a person deserve the very best out of your life, and these kids do too. So I always tell people there is no shame in leaving teaching or coming back or not coming back at all. I think it says how much you care about the kids, truly.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I loved all the kids that I worked with. That's why I became a teacher, is because I loved kids.
You lied. You never lied so much. I'm just kidding.
Not at all. But it's different when you're the one not being accepted.
Yep.
So it was the opposite. It wasn't me not accepting the kids. It was the kids not accepting to respect me because I looked just like them.
Yep.
and that made it really tough. That made it really tough for me. I really struggled. And yeah, you deal with the parents and the administration, and there's the politics of that, and that's not fun. I didn't like the politics. I don't miss that. And that for me was, that perfect storm of just a lot of negativity and something that was supposed to be a really positive experience for me. I worked really hard in school to get, my grades so that I can get a really good job. And I did give it a fair chance,
Yep.
but, it all worked out. I think it all worked out. And I had that experience, and no one can take that away from me.
Right.
So
it's the most important and the hardest job in the world. I always say that, and I firmly believe it.
Yeah, definitely. So you're on tour right now, right?
I am. Yeah. I'm actually on a little bit of a break. I have about 4 days off before I'm back on the road.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be like, I have like 4 minutes, so hurry up.
No shows tonight.
Nice. So tell us about the tour. How's that going?
Touring is incredible. So I was actually on tour. I was on a little bit of a world tour before the pandemic happened, with a show that I had previously written, which was called Indoor Recess. But then the pandemic happened, and it was kind of interesting. Everything changed overnight. So all these jokes that I was telling about teaching were no longer actually relevant because education as a whole changed completely. And I continued to do these jokes, and people were like, yeah, like that's almost ancient. Like we don't really do that anymore because of how the structure of education changed. So now I'm on tour. It's called the School's Out for Summer tour. I'm on tour all summer. It's actually more than summer. It's going all the way until like October now because we're constantly adding cities. And I just talk about my life as a teacher. And I pride myself in looking at life through a comedic lens, no matter where I'm at. So I bring all these instances of the kids and being in the classroom and their parents and working with the administration. And the best compliment that I always get from fans after the show is, you say what we think. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. This teaching, for some reason, there's this thing where teachers feel like they have to be this, I call them Mary Poppins people. We'll use the word people right now. Mary Poppins people, where you're practically perfect in every way. We're not. We're people too, right? We mess up. Things are crazy. It hits the fan every time you're in the classroom. Like, just be real. So I'm out there spilling the real.
Well, I also think there's a fine line too. Like, I know a teacher who, he teaches like high school or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I called one of my students an asshole the other day. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you did not do that. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, you didn't get in trouble? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm tenured. And I'm like, well, still, there's that fine line. Like, even if I was a tenured teacher, I still wouldn't call any of my students an asshole to their face, and you might think it, but you don't say it.
Exactly.
So I was like, wow. And then I'm like, you still have your job? He's like, yeah, I'm tenured. I'm like, so you can just run around calling everyone an asshole and it's okay?
It's wild.
It's crazy.
It is.
I think it's different because you have the younger kids, but the older kids that are more of an adult, I think that's why there's that comfortability factor where you are a likable teacher and you can get away with certain things. Yep. And I think if, given the circumstances, I'm not condoning it at all because I was like baffled by this, but he's like, yeah, no, it's fine. He's like, they just told me like, whatever, watch your mouth. But it doesn't mean he's not going to do it again.
Right.
So
Right.
it's crazy. I mean, things are just a lot different today than they were.
Extremely.
When we were growing up. So let's talk about comedy a little more. Is it something that's been super important to you as a kid, or did you kind of discover that you were like this comedian at some points in your life? Like, what kind of got you to the point where you're like, hey, I'm pretty funny?
Yeah, I think I've always been funny. I've always been outgoing. And I never really understood it until like later in life. So I growing up gay in the 90s as a little kid, like I was definitely like more feminine of a little kid. And as I grew up, I realized that I was using comedy as my defense mechanism, as my weapon, because my whole thing was, if I can make you laugh, you won't hurt me because you'll want me to make you laugh. And so I was constantly, class clown, acting up, trying to get laughs, and not trying. I was getting laughs, making the group laugh, making people laugh, because that was my thing. It was like, if I make you laugh, that means you like what I'm doing and you won't pick on me. So that kind of just translated, and it was basically years and years of offstage practice, just like honing in that fast wit, those quick jokes, voices, characters all the time. And it just translated it on stage. And the other side of that, because that's kind of serious, is I love it. I do love to make people smile and laugh. And I feel like I truly, truly believe that laughter is the best medicine. And if you feel good about yourself and you feel good about the moment, then you feel good. And especially right now in the pandemic, when I'm on tour and I'm doing the show, you can see people come in and as I'm doing the jokes, their shoulders just relax and they are comfortable, and I'm laughing about what I thought was the unlaughable. And it's like, yeah, like I'm just like, let's like feel good and have a good time. And people often ask, like, are you gonna be in the classroom forever? Or are you gonna do comedy? And it's like, first of all, I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. So wherever that good time's gonna take me, I'm gonna follow that, And I see myself in the classroom, and I see myself bringing joy to 20-something kids and their families. But then I'm touring the country and I'm bringing joy to like 300, 500, 1,000 people at one time every night of the week. And then those people go back into their jobs refreshed, replenished. Like I gave them permission to like ease up, to enjoy, to laugh, to like find the funny in their profession. And that in turn makes you a better person, like you're better at your job when you're able to just like relax. So I do honestly feel that my comedy is having a stronger impact on the people who come to see my show. So that's why I do it. Like I love my life. I love my life.
That's awesome. Who's your favorite comedians?
God, I have so many. Right now, I'm super into Heather McMahon. Is very funny, constantly keeping me laughing. I love women in comedy. Kathleen Madigan is huge for me. Tiffany Haddish is huge for me. Whitney Cummings, Nikki Glazer, Maria Bamford. Just so many funny. Angela Johnson. So many funny women, and I feel like I connect with them on a different way too, because it's very hard for women to find their footing in comedy, and it's actually very hard for gay men to find their footing in comedy too, because comedy is it's weird because we're just a bunch of ass clowns who are joking around, but it's macho and it's male dominated and it's got this macho energy to it. So being gay in comedy can sometimes, you have to fight for it. So I think that's why I connect with like very strong like female voices in comedy too. But then on the other hand, like I definitely am just like a comedy fan so deeply, where I love Nate Bargatze, Bert Kreischer, Sebastian Maniscalco, and then like Mark Norman, like just so many comics. I'm a comedy buff through and through. I grew up in a comedy family. We were constantly watching stand up growing up. So yeah, the list goes on.
Nice. I was watching that movie, The Green Book, last night, and
Sebastian, yeah. Yeah, he's my parents' number one. My mom's actually an Italian New Yorker who later on came to Michigan, but she always tells me, she's like, you ain't shit until you start playing where Sebastian's doing his shows. And then what's funny is the management company that I'm with, they also represent Sebastian. And I told them that my mom said that, and they said, well, you just tell your mom that you're playing the same places that he used to do. And I was like, So we're making it. We're getting there.
Yeah, he's awesome. I've seen him 3 times. It's really good. I like him. He's funny. So how would you describe your sense of humor?
Okay, this is an interesting question. I am goofy. I'm lighthearted. I am witty. Oh, you know what? Here's the word, animated. I'm animated. My humor is very animated. I love when I'm on stage that sometimes I don't even say a word, but I can get the audience to laugh with a facial gesture. Or if I hit a really good joke, I know that I can extend the laughter with like emotion or a look or just a body move. And I love that. And a lot of comics, well, everyone's got their own style. And you'll notice that some comics just have the ability to stand there and talk into the microphone and own their audience.
Yeah.
And I work that stage. My feet are on every square inch of that stage when I'm on stage. I am all over the place. And that's just who I am. I'm like riddled with ADHD. I'm like constantly all over the place in life. And it shows when I'm on stage. So yeah, animated is my word.
Nice. So we've all heard you're famous for your 2017 viral video about the spelling test April Fool's Day prank. How do you feel about that video now?
A lot of people, I get asked this, and people are like, oh, do you like being known as a spelling test guy? Because like a lot of people don't like being known for like whatever that first thing is, but I'm like so honored by it because it was my first big break, if you will. It was like the one thing that really put me on the map. If I hadn't made that spelling test video, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. And I'm proud of it. And the one thing that I'm the most proud of is it's timeless. It is a timeless joke that will always be funny. It'll always be funny. There will always be April Fool's Day. There will always be kids. There will always be confusion. Those things will never go away. And I captured those 3 things in one video. And I hear so often from people that were like, I just watched your video, like for the first time. Like people will be fans of mine and then find the video and be like, oh my God. Or the other way around. And I'm just like, this is awesome. Like, I made you laugh. Now let me rope you in with some more. And I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah, it's definitely timeless. So, it's smart to pick something where you're right. There's always going to be kids. There's always going to be April Fools, and there's always going to be spelling tests and spelling.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yep.
Nice. So how did your students in the video feel when it became famous? And have you heard from any of them over time, over the years since?
Yes, for sure. So they were beyond excited. They definitely thought they were famous immediately. I was on, the Ellen DeGeneres show for those videos, and they showed clips of my classroom when I was on there. So they like geeked out that they were on TV. They also really enjoyed just like the hype around it and what was happening. And, when you're a teacher, every 10 years, every 7 years, you get the class. It's like the class that is just like, damn, I wish every class was like this. And that was mine.
Nice.
That class, and actually I got very lucky. The class before it was in like tip top too. And those are my classes. And yes, oh my God, that class they're like juniors in high school now. And I hear from their families all the time. A couple of those moms I got very close with that I consider friends now. And the kids are doing great. They'll write me on like TikTok. They'll be like, this was my 4th grade teacher. It's cute. It's very awesome. Cute. Yeah, it's cute.
So what was your reaction when you got invited to Ellen? Were you like,
I shat. Yeah, it was really cool. It's actually a funny story. So right after the video started to go viral, I had to go to Disney World for a family reunion. And what's that?
Poor you. You
No,
got to
yeah.
go to Disney.
Yeah, Disney's no shade. Disney's not really my thing, so I wasn't like jumping for joy. But I was on the Finding Nemo ride, which Ellen DeGeneres is
Yeah.
famously the voice of Dory. So I'm on this ride and like her voice is playing, and I turned to my partner and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy if like she called for like me to be on the show, because it's like hyping up. And then we were literally just walking out of the ride and they called me.
Oh my gosh, you willed it to happen.
Literally.
Oh my gosh. That's like, you probably freaked out because
It was insane.
you were just saying that, and you were just saying it like throwing it out there, and you put it out in the universe, and look at that.
It
Boom.
was weird. It was weird. It was so weird, but unbelievable. Yeah.
That's cool. And so on your first appearance, you received two $10,000 checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them you had to spend on your school. So how did you decide to help out the school with the money?
You know, I didn't really want, I knew I could go two ways with it. Like I could be like, I am bringing this money to you and it should be used for this, or like name something after me. And I didn't want that at all. So I just told my boss, I was like, can we just have like a staff meeting around this and like brainstorm together like what's going to be best for everybody? And that's what we did. And we ended up getting new interactive, I mean, at the time it was smart boards were the thing. So we got interactive smart boards in every classroom, which is pretty cool because we were Title I, very strong Title I school. So it was nice to have that for the kids and their families.
Nice. You totally sounded like Darth Vader before when you were like, I'm bringing you this money.
Yeah.
Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
So as a teacher, how do you feel about the current underfunding of public school classrooms in America? I hate this because it's so cliche sounding.
I don't, what I think about it is that what's criminal is the distribution of wealth in public education that needs to be critically looked at and assessed, because the fact of the matter is, and you'll see it in any school district, you'll have very wealthy schools in a school district, and then you'll have like very underfunded Title I. And what it comes down to is the fact that, based off where families live, the taxes are given to the schools, and everyone's like, oh, that's equitable because everyone's paying taxes to the school. But what you're not taking into account is that a wealthy public school has parents who have disposable income who will donate more to the school, who will volunteer their time at the school, who will do that. But if you have an underperforming school in the same school district, those parents are working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet for their parents. They don't have for their family. They don't have time to come in and volunteer, and I don't blame them. You know what else they don't have? They don't have disposable income to just give to the school so they can have all A, B, C, and D. So funding in education needs to be looked at as a whole, and the funding needs to be distributed equitably and equally to all of the schools. And that comes from both the disposable income that's being donated to the buildings and to the district zoning and the taxes that are going to the buildings, because the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter where your kid goes to school. And I understand that everyone's going to have their best interests on their own kid, but all kids deserve the best first chance at life, and they all deserve an equal chance. And that's not happening right now.
Yeah, no, you bring up a lot of very good points. So what's your favorite thing about working with children?
The humor, the funny. They say the wildest stuff. They have no filter, and it's constantly keep me laughing. I don't think I could ever work in a job that doesn't have an element of surprise or humor or inconsistency. I love the inconsistency of working with kids, because you never know what's going to happen. You'll have a plan, it'll never go that way, and I thrive in that environment.
I remember, and you just like brought this thought back in my head, this memory from a very long time ago. And it was my first day of teaching. I think it was a 10th grade class. And there was a girl sitting in the back of the class, and she had her hand up intently. When I had just started, I had everything up on the board, and I turned around and any questions? She's like, ooh, 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 ooh. The kids with the oohs and the ahs. And I said, yes. And I was like, Mary, what's your question? She's like, are you pregnant?
Oh, shit.
And I so was not.
Oh.
And I just remember, like, why the hell on earth would you ask me that? And it was so embarrassing, because you have to figure out, A, how am I going to respond to this kid? B, why does she think that? Because I didn't look pregnant. And then C, D, and E, you're looking and you just see all these eyes in the room just staring at you, waiting for your big response.
Yes.
And all I could say was, no, I'm not.
Right.
Like, it's stuff like that, because you never know what you're going to get hit with. You never know you never know what they're going to ask you, and you have to be prepared to say something. And you can't say, I'll tell you later, because guess what? They're going to ask you again later.
They sure are. They sure are. They'll never live it down.
Yep. So how does public speaking enrich your life?
Public speaking, I do a couple things too. Like when I'm on stage, I still consider that public speaking, because I'm speaking to the public. But when I get to go to a school district or a teacher convention or something like that, I get to be really specific about my content, because I know like everybody is on the same page. And it's really cool to be able to like speak on a profession that I'm also very passionate about, but take very lightheartedly, and to just like give people permission to laugh at our career and not take it so seriously all the time. And it just like enriches me to fill people's bucket through the lens of laughter and joy. Nice.
So can you talk about your podcast, Social Studies?
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of my baby. The Social Studies podcast is really fun. I talk on the podcast everything that happened in kindergarten the week before you listen. So I kind of give you like the skinny of what actually goes down in the kindergarten class, which is pretty fun. And in the summer times, I'm not in the classroom. You would think that I'm not doing that, but so much happens that I have saved so many stories to keep it going. And it's mixed in with some really cool guests that are education centric. Sometimes I'm interviewing celebrities who used to be teachers. Sometimes I'm bringing in teachers who have a really cool story. Sometimes I'm bringing in other comedians who are talking about their time in school. And it's just really bringing education a good laugh.
Nice. Who's been your favorite guest so far?
Well, I have a spin-off of the whole podcast as a whole. We have an episode that comes out every Wednesday that's called Let's Watch TV. And my co-host is actually my mom. So she's probably my favorite guest. We watch a different TV show together every week, and then we just chat it up. And it's fun. It doesn't have to do anything with teaching, but we have fun together, and we have a really awesome relationship, and that's probably my favorite guest.
Aw, that's sweet. Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
If you're listening. So what would you say is your favorite kind of video to make?
It's not about the videos for me, because if you go through my videos, most of them are quick. It's just like mindless. I just turn on my phone and say what I'm thinking and then chop it up a little bit. So I wouldn't really say there's a favorite to make, because I'm literally just being myself.
Nice. So as a teacher, you've inspired lots of students throughout your career. Were there any teachers in your life that inspired you when you were in school?
Yes, many. My third grade teacher, I switched from going to a private Catholic school, and in third grade, my parents made a decision to put me in the local public school that was brand new, just built, almost in our backyard. And she really just allowed me to be myself, be creative, be funny, be outgoing. And my mom described it as like it was the first time I saw color, where she noticed like immediately after being in that school, I was coming home happy, I was excited. I was regurgitating everything I learned. And third grade is where I fell in love with learning. And I was excited about that. So I think about her, Miss Badalamente was her name. I think about her all the time when I'm in the classroom because I allow my kids to be themselves, just like she allowed me to be mine.
Nice. So who are your biggest supporters?
My parents, oh my God. My parents are huge supporters of mine. They love everything that I'm doing. They're my biggest critics and my biggest groupies. They have been known to drive long distances and show up at my shows, which is the cutest thing in the world. Yeah, they're both retired, so
That's
they
sweet.
come and support, and they love to see it. They love to bring their friends. They love to read up on everything that I'm doing, listen to interviews that I'm on, watch shows that I'm being featured on, and
Are they are they the ones that are like holding those big embarrassing banners up with like your
not,
name on it and shaking the banner and going all
not
crazy?
not quite, but I wouldn't put it past them.
So what's the grand plan? If you were to look into your future and you had a
Yeah.
crystal ball, what do you think the next 5 years, 10 years looks like for you?
Within 5 years, I'd like to have a special out. But the overall plan that won't die until it happens is I want to host Kids Say the Darndest Things. So
Aw.
Tiffany can't do it forever. She's killing it right now, but she can't do it forever. And if she ever has to step down for any reason, holla at your boy, Tiff.
Well, now that you put it out there in the universe, the same thing's going to happen like it did with Ellen.
I will never stop putting that in the universe. I'll be 80 years old. I'll host it from my nursing home bedroom. Like, I'll do it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So any advice for anyone out there that's looking to pursue a career in comedy or a career in teaching or both?
A career and a life in general. Don't take it too seriously. Have fun. If you're not having fun, why are you doing it? Just there are definitely, it's a roller coaster. All career or life is a roller coaster. There's dips, there's good times, and there's bad times. But if the majority of the time you're not having fun, do something else. You got to have fun. Love what you do and do what you love.
Nice. That's great advice.
Thank
So how can everyone find you on social media?
Easily. All my social media handles are at Mr. D times 3, all written out with the number 3 at the end. MRDTIMES, the number 3. Yep. All my tour dates are on my website, mrdtimes3.com. And my podcast, Social Studies, you can just type that in, give it a listen. And I'm on all social media. So YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the tickety talkety, everywhere. Go ahead, find me, scoop it up.
What's the times 3 for?
I'm a triplet.
You're a triplet?
No, I'm not. I'm just teaching. Yeah, no. I was teaching third grade, so it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Mr. D times 3. It's got a little rhyme to it.
Yep.
It. Very cool. Well, thanks so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I really appreciate you asking.
Of course. And thank you everyone at home or wherever you are for listening for another version of Breath Fresh Marketing, and be well.